when I step in the room, you hear me coming. But so when I got on stage, I was like, oh, this is nice. You
This
know,
is right. Okay.
people looking at me, and they enjoy what they hear. Come on,
Right.
okay, audience.
Purpose driven living, that's the motto. Purpose driven living, boy, that's the motto. If God orders my steps, then I'ma follow. We just steward the gifts that we borrow. Purpose driven living.
All right, so welcome everybody. Good day, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Pleasure just joining you all. Today I have a special guest, Alexandria Gurley, Alex the Great, is going to be joining us. And this is the inaugural series called Driven, with the focus of really looking at regular people with purpose-driven lives. And so the heart of this particular series for me is just being able to like navigate just the different aspects of our passions and interests. Personally being able to or just reflect and see my own struggles as a professional, as a family man, as an entrepreneur, a creative. Sometimes all of these roles kind of come into conflict, and just thinking about just my own personal story, just struggling with imposter syndrome, but really just balancing how do I maximize these gifts and opportunities. So with that I have a special guest that just going to help us to dive into this topic. Alexandria, first off, before we start the question, what do you go by? I know I called you Alexandria, Alex the Great. What do people call you?
You can just call me Alex.
Alex, perfect, awesome, yeah. So I know we've crossed paths in the past, Alex. As yourself a mother, a higher education professional, a spoken word artist, speaker, creative of all sorts, entrepreneur. You're like the perfect person I want to just be able to pick their brain and tell your story. So if you don't mind, just telling us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do.
So hi everybody. I go by Alex the Great. Great is an acronym for giving real encouragement amongst turmoil. So I am I do a lot of things. I'm a mommy. I am a higher education professional. Currently I work in career development, but my passion work has always been in diversity and inclusion work, and in student activities, student programming. But I've been in higher education for probably 9 years now. I am a spoken word artist, a poet, professional poet. I'm a speaker, diversity trainer, strategy.
Hey family, it's your boy Quintrell Lenore here with brand new merch to keep you guys looking good this season. We have long sleeve, short sleeve, as well as hoodies. Check us out at gumroad.com/PDL apparel. We got all the swag you need to stay covered in purpose.
I workshop facilitator as well, and I do freelance resume writing also. I got a million hustles, but they do kind of, I try to make it so that they blend in some ways.
Yeah.
That's where it kind of gets fuzzy, is where you're trying to make the distinction between everything, and we're not one dimensional, so people.
Right.
So our lives can't necessarily be cutthroat and this, I'm going to do this from 8 to 10 and this 10 to 12. It doesn't happen. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. It's funny because the word that before I started this series, the word that kind of kept coming to me is congruence, right? Make sense of my life and put it into this perfect piece. And I like how you said it. It's not clean cut, right? And especially when we look at our days, our time is limited. You kind of reference just a little bit. Some things might take place during the day, the 9 to 5, some stuff in the evening and so forth. But I like that illustration. And I want to dive into kind of all those different aspects, excuse me, that you mentioned, your background or your interest in D&I work, as well as higher education and student programming. I want to start with you as an artist, right? So, I kind of did a little bit of research. You have a great website up that gives a snapshot of the work that you do. And I was curious to see from you as a creative, like what does your sort of inspiration come from? What motivates you? How did you sort of get started as spoken word artist?
Well, I've always had an affinity for writing. English was my favorite subject, going back to middle school and things. I I grew up in a pretty large family. It's one of 7 children, and so I always felt like kind of writing was my outlet because you didn't really get much, you know, time to speak.
Yeah.
You got to get in where you fit in, like really. So,
Right.
you know, I would kind of retreat to myself in that way and write a lot. What turned in, it started to turn into poetry just to release my feelings. But then I would say maybe when I got to college, that's when I started performing on stages in front of people and liked it. I've always liked, you know, I'm, you know, I don't know, I was gonna say flashy, but big and out there. My
Hey,
personality is, you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
hey, I'm here, and you know, and when I step in the room, you hear me coming. But so when I got on stage, I was like, oh, this is nice, you
this
know.
is right. Okay.
People looking at me, and they what they hear. Oh, come on,
Right.
okay, audience.
Okay.
So yeah, and I ran with that. I like it, but I don't. That was a natural fit in the beginning, but I would never not be a writer though.
Hi, at Lenore Coaching, we work with a wide variety of job seekers, including students, early career professionals, and experienced professionals, with services including job search strategy, career exploration, personal branding, networking, interview preparation, as well as resume and cover letter writing. So you guys can contact us first by reaching out to our website, which is www.lenorecoaching.com.
You can also contact us via social media. We have Instagram and Facebook pages, Lenore Coaching LLC.
So
Yeah.
you know, the performance side just kind of came in on the tail end.
Wow.
So yeah, I knew that this is something that I need to do. For you know, for the longest time. If it was somebody asked me a question before, if you could never write another poem for the rest of your life, but if someone offered you $1 million for you to never write another poem for the rest of your life,
Yeah.
would you take it or would you do it? I was like, nah, no, can't
Wow.
do
Not for a meal. Not for a meal.
it. No, and I can't write it again. No,
That's good.
that's
No,
crazy.
that's awesome. I appreciate you sharing. You know, one thing that sort of stuck out, like as an artist, right, is you kind of reference like this really started from you as some sort of like therapeutic, like an outlet, and
Yeah.
sort of just it progressed from there. And often that is kind of what happens. Sometimes artists switch their medium. Maybe they start with, you know, writing with poetry and they go into painting and so forth. But you made a good point that I want to ask you about is, you know, as you, it started out as sort of free writing to process, and then poetry came along, but then that performance element. And so you, it sounds like personality wise, like it was just a natural, you being able to express yourself, outgoing. But a lot of folks sort of struggle, I think me in particular, more introverted to get out there and do that. So tell me about that process for you of like, all right, this is definitely, you know, I'm a writer at heart. I can put creative things on paper, but being able to perform is a whole different thing. So how did you sort of navigate that? And what sort of advice would you give for people that are trying to take that step to perform?
I mean, but like I said, for me, it's and I know, I guess my situation or my disposition about it is not the average person's, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, I recognize that, but for me, it was kind of, you know, seamless transition. And I never really had, I guess, a hang up about public speaking or being on stage in front of people. But, you know, I've you know, I hear the cliche suggestions or advice that, oh, imagine everybody's in their underwear and, you know, just close your eyes and, you know, pray. And I've seen some actual like professional poets who do that too. I think to kind of center themselves, like they don't look at the audience. Like
Right.
you think they're kind of, you know, that's part of the performance or what have you, but their eyes are closed while they're performing in some ways, or, you know, but and that's something that you can try if you or find one thing to zone in on and focus in on when you get to the room or wherever it is. Scan the room and say, you know, oh, that clock on the wall, or oh, that, you know, that vape in the corner, that's gonna be me, and I'm focused on that. And so no matter what is going on around you, and it's gonna be a lot of distractions, you know, people are doing, and poetry is, you know, a real tricky you know, thing, or art form. Not a lot of people have really grasped onto it, you know. It's not it's considered high art, it's not mainstream, you know. I think we definitely are more you know, underground, but it's getting more notoriety, because with Amanda Gorman, the national youth poet, who spoke at inauguration, and then oh Lord, his name is again Brandon Lee, first poet to win America's Got Talent this past fall. So spoken word is definitely getting more notoriety, but it's also, you know, a lot of people still kind of see it as cliche, you know, or it's a joke. It's, you know, it's just like, oh, you know, snapping their fingers. Oh, when
right. It's not like that. It's not. Yeah, no. I think.
Yeah, it's so much more complex. But yeah, I would just say zone in on something. You know, find something to be kind of your focal point. Remember why you're doing it. You know, if that's something, it may not even be something you want to do. You can be a person who is just a writer. You know, you're a poet. You just write poems. And then the spoken word is a whole different avenue. You might not be for performance if that's not what you want to do. But you can be a beautiful, beautiful, amazing writer, though. Very talented. And then, you know, you can work to get published in journals, you know, books. There's different conferences and writing residencies or retreats for writers, for literary writers, I guess is how they would distinguish between that and spoken word. So that's not everybody's avenue, but
what I can appreciate about you sharing, you know, obviously the performance piece. You know, there's no replacement for practice, right? They say that practice is perfect. You know, your brain makes adaptations when you do something over and over. So there's something to be said about preparing, getting outside your comfort zone and figuring out different strategies to do that. But what I appreciated about you saying was, it sounds like within the culture of spoken word and poetry, there's so many different things that you can do. You mentioned as a writer, right? I don't know if there's a culture of ghostwriting, but obviously as a writer, that can be your strength. Then the actual performing aspect of it. But you also mentioned, excuse me, publications. And so it sounds like there's different avenues. So maybe, I guess, a word of advice for somebody is, like, what your interest is, there might be different pathways to consider, kind of expanding your own route.
Purpose-driven living, that's the motto. Purpose-driven living, boy, that's the motto. If God orders my steps, then I'ma follow. We just steward the gifts that we borrow. Purpose-driven.